What I learned from COVID was three things. The first is the power of resilience. I have always believed for an entrepreneur, you have to keep digging when you're inside a tunnel. My father works now for a road construction company. So that's why I hear about these stories. So when you're in a tunnel and inside and you're digging, at some point of time you may feel that it's darkness all through, right? But you have to keep digging and there is always light at the end of the tunnel. So I think in the time of COVID, there was always this feeling saying that, why is it happening just to us, right? Like, why is this, like, when will this go away? Even though you knew that someday it will change, vaccines will come, life will be good, but there's always this thing of saying, by when will it go away? I think but we had this conviction of saying that, hoga kabhi na kabhi, people will travel again. That's happening today, thank God. That was one. This power of perseverance is unprecedented, and I say this to every entrepreneur who's hopefully listening to us here. That is, you may be building your business and you may be losing your most important colleague. You may be running a business and you may be losing your best customer. You may be having an investor who's saying that if you don't make returns in a few months, I'm going to be unhappy. You should know that, if you keep going at it, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. So that's one thing I learned. The second thing I learned is the power of having a team which truly works like a family. I didn't have my senior leaders leave me in the time of the pandemic, and if at all, we all got closer. And in that, one of the things that helped me was the power of reflection. I have learned that experiences, people say, is very valuable, right? Experience ka bahut mahत्व hota hai, aapne itne saal dekha hai. I think I will say a provocative statement, to pura sunna aap. Experiences, in my view, are not as valuable as much as reflections of those experiences are. What it means is, if you have experience on something and you don't do anything about it, then it's of no value. But if you have the experience and you can reflect on it and say, what can I do better by using that, that's very valuable. So that's what we did as a management. We spent a lot of time reflecting कि हमने क्या अच्छा किया, क्या हम बेहतर कर सकते थे, and then worked on improving it. What else? I think the third thing is, something that we were talking about is the power of, companies which work with small businesses and companies which are systemic to the Indian society, right? Like, you may think that COVID mein kaun travel kara tha. Reality is a lot of Oyo hotels were full in Mumbai at that point of time. Of course, we were not making any money on them. We were selling them very cheap because that was the right thing to do. Because we were one of the biggest providers for Vande Bharat mission. We were one of the biggest COVID center extensions for hospitals. So I was very lucky that our company could do its bit. So I think that's my big takeaway from COVID. But the big story is people are traveling. And if you haven't booked yet for summer season, book soon, because rooms and flights are all getting full very soon.
I think that's just good news. That I think there's some semblance of normalcy and travel and I guess making those memories is back. But I distinctly remember that during the pandemic, we spoke to a bunch of people who were using Oyo facilities as COVID centers, essentially because I remember this one story where the person was COVID positive and the landlord asked him to leave. And he ended up staying at an Oyo because Oyo's doors were open. So I think that in that adversity, to find the strength to still continue pushing people was amazing. And big congratulations that you guys managed to do that even when it was so tough for you.
Thank you. No, I think, Karishma, this is a very important thing that you're saying, right? New age businesses like ours, and I will not just say Oyo, right? I would even call out Ola, I would call out Byju's. All the new digital companies rose up to the occasion when pandemic happened. And specifically at Oyo, we have seen that we've become like the service in distress. I was speaking to someone, jinhone kaha ki, I was away in a, in a small town. I didn't know where to go. I missed my train. So I could book an Oyo and I knew that I was home. So I think this COVID story, I'll tell you the one that is closest to my heart. In NCR region, there was once this period initially, wave 1 ke samay hua tha, when doctors ko log keh rahe the ki aap society chhod ke chale jaएं. So there was this AIMS doctor who was actually serving COVID patients. He, his wife, children and dog were all asked to leave their society. right? And of course, we were very happy to host them. And the person went on to save 50 people's lives over the next, few months. So I think we are very lucky to be playing a part in time of distress. But I think that's an opportunity. I don't see it as saying that hum log kuch benefit kare. I think that's a part of what we do. It is to make sure that people have a place available for whatever reason they would like.
That's fantastic. And now that, like you mentioned, there's a semblance of normalcy returning and the tourism industry is up and running again, how do you think it's changed through this period? Because obviously concepts like work from home, staycation, workation have become very, very normal in the work culture as well. So how do you think that it's evolved?
Yeah, I think work from anywhere is a concept that, every company is now coming to reality of terms with. Look, I think, first off, I believe that the way people used to work, the way people used to live, and the way people used to travel, I personally believe has changed with the pandemic, and there are few changes which are not going to go back to what it was pre-pandemic. मुझे लगता है कि that's a one-time change that's happened. And flexible working is a very critical part of it. Isme you will see that earlier weekends for us used to be Fridays and Saturdays, right? I'm increasingly seeing weekends have now started becoming work weekends, where people book for 4 days, from Friday through to Monday, because people know that I can do video calls on Monday. At least in some, we went to a few agriculture, farmers who had a house. These properties are running at 70% occupancy for last 2 years flat, including the time of pandemic, because people could not travel internationally. So they saw India for the first time. To us or here in the room, have either already experienced homestays in the last 2 years or will be experiencing homestays in the next 3 to 4 years. And we, of course, through Oyo Homes, hope to make a difference. But, there are many other companies make a positive difference. But we will...
Especially with, it's such an interesting stat that you said that it's changed from Friday to Monday because you can just take work calls. I think that especially like a hybrid model is something that I think most people... Ritesh, what about digitalization, this ecosystem in the tourism industry for Oyo during the pandemic?
If you see around ourselves, we see a kirana shop, an automobile repair. If you grew up in a middle income family, you'd see all this dukaan nearby your house, and you would effectively आपका रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी इसी से चलती है. All successful entrepreneurs. हमने तो जब शुरुआत करा था, we were not successful. They were all successful. So you're always the average of 5 people around you. So if I've been systemic to our country, and companies which make small businesses systemic to them will be successful, is my view. And that's why Oyo is very deeply connected. To system, there is a big shift happening. The big shift is of digitization and technology. I believe that fundamentally technology here ourselves. Now within this, it's very critical to use tech for all of our small hotels. So big picture, I am very excited. Fraternity at least. While there is a breadth or we had a breadth of feeling of dismay given the impact of the pandemic to our businesses, but I think there is a sense of increasing optimism towards saying that we will rebuild, and this time when we rebuild, we will build it bigger, we'll build it nicer, and we'll build it more sustainable. So what I mean by that is India is a forthcoming destination, both for international travelers as well as our domestic travelers. India had over 1 billion domestic visits right before the pandemic, and increasing as